Hello and welcome to Call to Arms, and thank you for answering the call. Welcome to our first episode of Battlecry. This is our, I suppose you would say, kind of vlog of the channel where we'll get to talk about all things to do with Warhammer. Tonight's topic, we're going to be talking about what is the state of AOS, so Age of Sigmar, what kind of state is it in just now, how have we got to this point, what are our thoughts, and we've got lots of experience tonight in order to kind of go over this rather large and general topic. So luckily I've got the right man for the job. I'm joined here by my co-host Nathan Watson. Hello.
Hello.
And so someone with lots of experience in Age of Sigmar, I'd say probably one of the top competitive players or in the Scottish community, certainly. And yeah, so Nathan, tell us a bit about yourself, man.
Um, so I've been playing Warhammer Age of Sigmar for about 7 years now, I think. Feels weird because I used to think that I was like new on the scene, but like I'm like a bit of the old furniture now, as they would say. So yeah, can't get rid of me. Um, but not
Not
like
that we,
I've
not that we'd
been,
want to.
yeah, sure. Uh, I've been somewhat competitive for a few years now. Um, I would say that like a few people that were like a bit better at the game have kind of drifted away from the Scottish scene recently, and I maybe look a bit better than I actually am. But no, I've been doing okay. I play lots when I can, and yeah, I
Awesome.
love Age of Sigmar. It's good.
Yeah, no, as we all do, as we all should do. Yeah, so much like yourself, been playing the game a good few years now, and I feel like it's just gotten better and better, and as has the tournament play. I think up in the Scottish scene as well. I think we're seeing a lot of strong competitors coming in now. Not that there wasn't ever, but I think as you say, there's a lot of new blood coming on the scene. And yeah, it's a really kind of exciting time just now up here, I think. Um, so yeah, so as I've already said, thank you, welcome to the channel. Um, if you haven't already, if you'd like the content, by all means, please like and subscribe. This will allow you to get access to more content, and it'll also just help the channel as well and help us get some more views and hopefully some more subscribers. So if you could hit that like button and subscribe button, that would be fantastic. So yeah, let's get onto the main kind of body. So the way we're going to try and do these episodes is we're probably going to have a bit of a hobby section. So we'll talk about what we've been up to just now, if we've been building, painting anything, gaming, tournaments, and then also have maybe a bit of a news section. So anything that has kind of recently happened in the Age of Sigmar sphere, we would kind of talk about that as well. But as we are trying to kind of lay the groundwork, not only for the channel but also just for this kind of general look at the Age of Sigmar, the state of Age of Sigmar, I think it would be good to just get right into the main kind of body of the topic of discussion for tonight, so, which is state of Age of Sigmar. Okay, so let's take a look at, well, basically how we got to this point. So let's take a look at a brief history of Age of Sigmar, shall we? Let's dive in. So, brief history of third edition. So, third edition released in June 2021, which kind of feels like forever ago.
Saying that before we started, like
Yeah,
it seems I can't even really remember 2.0 anymore.
that's the
Like
thing.
stacking command points. What was that? Like
Exactly. It
paying
just
50 points for a command point.
it certainly feels. God, yeah, you used to have to do that, didn't you?
Yeah,
It just feels
1800 point
like.
lists.
Yeah, it feels like forever ago. It feels like, yeah, it just feels like we've been playing this third edition for so long now. But yeah, really, it's only been over a year. Um, how did you find the transition going from second edition into third edition? I mean, I know you've just said that you barely remember it, but is there anything kind of that comes to mind when you think about what happened when we got this new edition came out? It was like
Yeah.
we used to feel like we got just hammered with all these new releases, and we just had to just absorb and take it all in and run with it. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, like we kind of drip fed some of the transitional stuff that came in 3.0 towards
Hmm.
the end of 2.0 because they had, was it like a hidden agendas and stuff for like
That's
a
right.
Ryzen
Yeah.
sort of thing towards the end of second,
Yeah.
which is now kind of like our battle tactics and
Hmm.
stuff. So
Yeah.
um, the I think that maybe softened the transition a bit. But yeah, the game was massively different in 2.0, being almost entirely focused on primary objective play.
Yeah.
So board control was much bigger, the table size was bigger, so there was more space. Like generally armies were a little bit bigger as well. Like points kind of went up wholesale at the start of
Hmm.
3.0. So
Yeah.
um like armies like the old change host and stuff that used to dominate the game just by teleporting in, controlling the board, tagging stuff.
Yeah.
So that element of the game doesn't really exist as much anymore. Now
No, I mean,
the lethality of the games just went up so much, and it's all about quick, fighty, punchy stuff.
no, definitely. I think damage has scaled up, as you said.
Mm,
The killiness of units, of base units now. You think back a good while ago, you'd be happy to hit on threes, you'd be happy to wound on
yeah.
threes, maybe with a pipper end, maybe, if you were lucky.
Yep.
And, damage two was probably one of the highest, and maybe not highest, but, when you were looking at more elite kind of models, you're thinking,
Mm,
no, damage two was pretty good. And now we're in a world of,
yep.
Rend 3, more than that potentially, obviously with certain combinations, certain armies. You've
Yep.
got damage 3, damage 4, and again more on that as well. Think being able to double attacks, exploding sixes, and all that stuff. So yeah, I think as you say, lethality has certainly gone up. I think that's a big trend going over from the last edition to this one. You also touched upon the fact that battalions disappeared. So you're talking about
Yeah.
change host there.
Change hosts. Yeah.
So all these, I was going to say codex, battle tome battalions that
Mm-hmm.
armies you were
Just pay
using
points
to,
for.
yeah, and they were using to great effect. I sorely missed when Feck lost all their battalions.
Yeah.
Not can't take Smashbat anymore. Things like that. So it was certainly, I think, a big change and quite a big steep learning curve to deal with that as well. And the fact that we've now got everyone has access to these general battalions that we now use. Um, so yeah, perfect. So that's just a kind of transition from second edition into third, and my kind of memory of it, I remember just having to take in and absorb all this information as quickly as possible because we were both prepping for Six Nations.
Six Nations. Yeah.
Um, and you were like, right, okay, so not only have we been, prepping lists and armies for months now of that
Mm-hmm.
current edition, you're then thrown into brand new edition. Okay, what's the new combos? What do we need to look out for? Who has lost out? Who has won out of this? And who do we now need to look
Yeah.
at in terms of actually playing as well? So it was just this big kind of, I just feel like it was this big massive melting pot that we just had to quickly analyse and get the correct information out and then prep and deal with it. So it was a kind of a hectic time, but also a really fun time because the kind
It
of
was useful. It was
yeah,
probably the best way to learn the new edition because we
yeah,
were in a position where we had to use all of the grand strategies and
hmm,
stuff when building lists because Six Nations format they restrict duplication. So
yeah,
you've got to like really reach out and look and make sure that you're exploring everything that's available. So that's probably quite a good way to learn the new edition at that
yeah,
stage, whereas other people are probably just trying to adapt the lists that they had to work in 3.0.
yeah.
Um,
No, absolutely.
but no, like it's a completely different game when you really start thinking back to what 2.0 was like.
Hmm.
Um, the amount of bloat that's been added to the game. I don't know if it was intended because they were getting rid of things like faction battalions and stuff.
Yeah.
Now we've got faction battle tactics and I suppose to an extent faction battalions as well.
I mean,
So
that's. I mean, I'm going to say. Oh, I was going to say a controversial issue. Maybe not that controversial, but I know that there has been quite a lot of outcry for TOs to not
yeah,
allow the use of faction battle tactics or grand strategies because there are certain books that have got marked advantages over others. Um,
mhm.
and then it's kind of, so we were all put in the same level playing field, but then others have now been kind of raised up above some others as well. So you're never going to have totally balanced. You're never going to have a game totally balanced, but just it does sometimes feel a wee bit like the kind of the old book creep, the old codex creep, or
Yeah.
Battletome creep. It's can sometimes be a wee bit apparent with things like that, but we're not going to get into whether or not we should use faction battle
Um,
taxes or not. Comp, no, no comp, no, no, we're not. We are not going into the comp. Not in the first episode. So yeah, okay. So that was second edition to third.
Yep.
Since third, we've now had 9 battle tomes to date. So they've
Lots.
been pretty much rattling them out, and a lot of
Yeah.
those have been your kind of your two faction releases at the same time. Your kind of your double army battle boxes that come out, and some have been standalone as well. So you can see them all on screen. We've had Deepkin, we've had Auric Warclans, and Stormcast Eternals. They were the first 2 releases, along with the new edition. We've then had Skaven, Fyreslayers, Maggot of Nurgle. I think that was the only standalone book, actually, now I think about it. Everything else was in doublers. So you had Deepkin and Fyreslayers was a double release. Skaven and Sylvaneth double release.
Hmm.
Daughters of Cain, Nighthaunt double
Nighthawk.
release. Warclan, Stormcast double release as well. So no double for Maggotkin. Not that it's had any sort of impact on them. They've come out and they've done, I'd say, pretty well in the new edition. But yeah, so
Army.
what's your thoughts on the 9 tomes we've had so far, and do you think there's any, let's say, marked difference between the way that second edition tomes were written and third edition tomes are now written? Because I personally feel that third edition tomes are written better.
I would agree.
Yeah,
Yeah, like having been playing third edition tomes until just the most recent army I've been playing.
yeah,
And then I was playing a second edition tome when Daughters of Cain got their third edition tome. Um, it's just so much better. So they used to have these things like the enclaves or the sort of mini factions within a faction that you would
hmm,
subscribe to get bonuses. So
yeah,
why would you not? And the reason you wouldn't is because you were tied into artifacts, command traits, which were sometimes subpar.
hmm,
So you had like when I used to play Daughters of Cain, there was like 12 command traits that I never used, 12 artifacts that I never used because I
yeah,
was going for low drops and I was forced into taking Hagnar stuff. So like that was just like so much wasted in the book.
yeah,
But now
yeah,
that you've got the freedom to, well, you can go Hagnar and now you can pick any command trait you want. But I suppose that's a bad example because everybody picks Zealous Orator. But you know what I mean? Like you're not
terrible
forced
example.
into
Terrible
terrible
example.
example.
There's
Um,
so much
there's so
variety.
much choice.
Everyone takes.
Yeah, but like I'm playing Blades of Corn,
Uh
and
huh.
the Reapers of Vengeance. You're forced into a command trait and an artifact again, and I don't like it. Like
Yeah,
you can't not take Reapers of Vengeance because you want to pile in twice with your Bloodthirster,
yeah,
which is
it's
really cool.
huge.
But you're kind of forced into taking these kind of crappy command traits and stuff. So that's good.
Yeah,
The other thing as well is they seem to be moving away from command abilities on War Scrolls and stuff. Like
yeah,
largely
yeah,
the stuff is faction related in the book, allegiance abilities. Um, so like every one of the Bloodthirsters have their own command ability, whereas if they get a new book or whatever, I would imagine that those abilities will move somewhere else in the allegiance, and you no longer have them. like tied to like
Yeah,
or they'll become abilities rather than command abilities.
yeah. And
Um,
do you think why do you think they've done that? Is that to just try and streamline? Do you think? I mean, obviously it's quite difficult. So you're saying yourself, if you've got three different bloodthirsters, you need to remember that they each all have a different command ability,
yeah,
as well as their own abilities, as well as maybe the faction command ability and the
there's a
just
lot.
yeah. So I'm wondering if it's just a case of let's make it slightly simpler on that front, the War Scroll front, but they can
Mm.
make it more complex with the sub-faction rules, with the just the overall faction abilities as well, or the allegiance abilities rather as well, potentially.
Yeah, possibly. I think that might be the case. Like they're maybe just trying to like separate different things,
Hmm.
make the war scrolls more. They have like some war scrolls do still have command abilities though, right? Like I think Marathi does as a good example of a
Yeah,
recent book that still has.
that's
It's a
true. Yeah, yeah.
big named character though, but
Hmm. Yeah,
I think wholesale a lot of the command abilities have been moving off of
yeah.
roles and stuff. Like I've been playing a Dragon Army somewhat recently, and the Knight Draconis doesn't have a command ability; just has an ability that buffs Draconis, which I would imagine in an older version of the game would have been a command ability on this War Scroll.
Yeah,
Um,
cool.
yeah, like I think that the new books just they just seem to be they seem to be more internally balanced as well.
Yeah, I think that's
Like it,
that's the bit that I was kind of about to ask you about was
mm,
can you put your finger on any one of those and think that that's a stinker of a book?
what stinker is in like bad, like a bad book.
Yeah, just
Um,
bad book, no play. Like probably you wouldn't be able to
no,
see at a competitive event, perhaps.
I think I think now after last weekend we've seen every single one of those books win events, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Fire Slayers, I'm not sure about because I just don't understand them, but I think they
That's
have been
yeah.
doing quite
I
well.
think
They've
that's the one
the
I've got in my
Magmadov
head.
build.
Yeah, I think you've got the Lofnir build, which is I think started off as a bit of a meme, but actually it's got
It's been doing
legs.
good.
It's
Like
got
yeah,
legs.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But
I've
yeah,
been
I
hearing
mean,
stuff about it.
yeah, I just the biggest thing for me is if I can look at all those books and I can think all of those factions have got play and they could all pump out just looking kind of subjectively at a tournament. I think they could all pump out either a 4-1 list
Yep.
or higher. I think, which is I feel is kind of maybe strange because
Hmm.
back in second edition, you would maybe have this kind of run of amazing book, absolutely amazing. Next one, meh.
Also good.
Amazing
Yeah.
book, meh. And then you would just have this kind of run, and then you were left with these factions that just didn't really feel like I had a lot of love. And then the next
Yeah.
book that came out was amazing, and you're like, all right, cool, awesome. But yeah, I think I've been really happy with the new codex releases in
It's
terms of
internal
you're saying,
balance as
yeah,
well.
internal balance. But I
There's
think,
not even one obvious list for each book, is there? I think
no,
the closest is probably the bees for Magickin, but
mm-hmm.
even then they've had like Andy Curry did really good with an Archeon build with like a much smaller number of bees, and then I've seen
Yeah,
people
yeah,
do well with the Beast of Nurgle,
yeah,
um, and like all the big kind of smash heroes and stuff. So
yeah, yeah.
like every single book doesn't have just like one list.
No,
They
definitely
all
not.
tend to like even Night Hunt. You'll see people playing was it Emerald
Hmm.
Host, and you'll see people playing the No Retreat and the Ignore Wards one. Like
Yeah, yeah. All of that's the thing.
oh
All of those sub factions have play. They have play
mhm,
somewhere to be a counter for something, and it's how you want your play style to be. And you can lean into
yeah,
whatever you want, and then that's the thing. But yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there in terms of the variety of lists that you can now see, and the fact that they've all got play and they've all not only internally balanced but kind of externally balanced as well with the other books as well. I don't think there's anything that's just come out
it,
as being that's the OPness
highest
and that's it.
highest win rate right now I think is tied three ways. I've not seen it with the most recent week
Mm-hmm.
stats, but it's like 56% three ways across Magickin, Seraphon, and I want to say Gargants are
Wow,
kind of tied three ways at 56%
wow.
across the world for tournaments. Whereas, like, in the not so recent past, we had things like Slanesh, 70% win rates, Daughters of
Yeah.
Cain pushing 60
Mm-hmm.
plus percent.
Yeah.
There's completely different now. And I think I saw a couple of tweets before we started as well that there was like 530 people playing Warhammer this weekend, just gone.
Wow. Oh my word.
Yeah, I was just reading it there from the guys that do the Honest Wargamer stats, Rob and Ziggy.
That's
This
amazing.
weekend, 530 plus players, 200 that previous biggest week. That's 530 plus lists, 1,600 plus games. Like, that's a lot of Warhammer taking place in one weekend
Wow.
compared to what we're used to.
And
So,
that's just Sigmar as well.
just Sigmar. Yeah, just
Wow.
Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, yeah. Which is great. That's what you want to see. And I mean, me and you were gaming at the weekend there.
Yeah, yeah.
But we would do a wee breakdown of that in another episode. But yeah, it's just I think a really good time for the hobby just now, definitely. So anyway, right, what else do we want to touch on here? So we spoke about the battle tomes. Yeah. Oh, well, GHB. So General's Handbook
Hmm.
2021 obviously came out with the new edition as well. We saw the kind of addition of a few little extras along with third edition as well. Again, just overall thoughts. Happy with GHB 2021.
Yeah, I think that was the one that was the focus on monster scoring, wasn't it? The
Yeah,
last GHB, not the most recent one. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Um,
Basically, Monster Mash meta
yeah,
was the kind of theme, wasn't it? Because you were having your monsters were getting bonus VPs for doing certain battle tactics. You had, but then to counter that, we had access to the oh god, I can't even remember the battalion now.
yeah, you had the one that stops you being monstrous rampaged. What was it called? Hunters of the Heartlands. Uh,
Thank God, somebody remembers. Jeez, oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, so when that first came out, I think the big hitters were the god lists, weren't they? Like Archaon
Yeah,
Siege was running rampant.
yeah,
Only took about 5 months, I think, for them to kind of bring that into into control. Just to the winter FAQ, where they kind of limited the impact he could have in factions like Zinch.
yeah,
Um, and then you had like Gotrek in every single order list as well. Um,
yeah. That
no,
little
I think
guy. Yeah.
if we compare the like when we get to the most recent battle tome, General's Handbook with the one just gone, the granularity of scoring was maybe a bit more fun in the last GHB than it is
hmm
now.
Yeah.
Because you could get there was a lot more access to bonus points for your secondary objectives, your battle tactics, with doing them with monsters, so you could tailor your
Definitely.
list to get that. And also because there was a lot more people running monsters, if you could tailor your list to also killing monsters, you could get bonus points for doing that as well. So the
Exactly.
granularity of scoring for a competitive player seemed a bit better, whereas
Yeah.
now, in my opinion, the scoring seems really flat if you can't table your opponent. So if
Yeah.
you're not able to table your opponent, games are very often coming within a couple of points, which I suppose is exciting, but as somebody who is a competitive player, if I feel I'm winning on the table and the score doesn't reflect it, it's incredibly stressful.
Oh, 100%.
Because
Yeah.
it just comes down to one or two bad dice rolls or something, and yeah,
Yeah.
that's you. You've missed your tactic, or
hmm
um, you don't secure your grand strategy, and that can be enough to lose the game or bring it to a tie, which is something we've seen a lot more of in the most
That's
recent handbook
true.
as well.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, just obviously talking about the weekend there was quite a few perfect,
Yep.
actual natural ties.
Ties. Yeah.
And yeah, it's so funny when you talk about the scoring being a lot closer now.
Mm.
There's been so many times now where you could be in the driver's seat from say turn three onwards. You've basically tabled your opponent. There was a example I had recently where my opponent had three models left, three individual
Yeah.
models left. I don't think I'd lost an entire unit in my army, and the score was brought to within 5 points at the end of the
Yeah.
game. And in my head, I'm just like, that shouldn't happen. I'm like, oh my god, like they have nothing left, but they played really well.
Yeah.
They just went, wait, well, I don't think I'm going to win this now. I'm just going to play for points, and I'm going to do everything I can. It's a points game, everything I can to get as many points as possible. They did really well, but you're sitting there stressing like, oh my god, like one little false move.
Yeah.
If I just think too brazenly about this battle tactic and I fail it, it's 2 points down. If I don't make sure I get my grand strat, it's 3 points down. That could be a tie game, and I think there's a lot more pressure now yeah, there's not like a kind of a win more strategy when
Yep.
you're really killing a lot of things. We had that with the monster meta. We don't really have that anymore now. So yeah, that's definitely something to consider. And I suppose that kind of takes us on to the last point there, which was just talking about the battle scroll updates that we
Yes.
received, and also the hunt update that we got, which I suppose in a way that was GW's efforts to try and balance the
Hmm.
probably some of the stronger elements of the game at that stage, dragons, gargants, the big um, smashy monster heroes like Archeon, like Maw Crushers,
Yeah.
things like that, because it gave you bonus points for killing them. Do we
Hmm.
think that was the right call, the right move?
Um, so I've got I guess maybe a unique perspective on it or opinion. Like, I think it was a good idea for them to try it.
Hmm.
And I think that they probably learned quite a lot from doing the hunt the way that they did it because they hadn't really done anything like that before where like specific units give away extra points inside the game to help the other armies that are maybe struggling score points.
Yeah,
Um, and I was at Warhammer World the weekend the battle scroll went live for a tournament. Like
yeah,
they put it all in the pack and stuff like that the week leading up to the event and told us that we were going to be using it and stuff. And we weren't really in a position to change our lists and stuff to adapt it because it was like just the week after. Um, and largely everybody there loved it. Like there was a lot of people were really excited to try and get these extra points and stuff
yeah,
like that, and they took it as like a personal mission. And I've got a feeling that Games Workshop love that kind of stuff. Like they love people getting behind the hunt. Like let's go and get these bad guys and stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Reality is that competitive players will just thread the needle. Like they will
Mm,
find, okay, what is the utmost efficient way to navigate this update to punish people. And I think that one thing that we saw that didn't quite work was that the Nurgle Battle Tome had only really just came out and was very strong.
mm,
The bees build, particularly into the meta that we'd been seeing, and they weren't giving away extra points. They were
yeah,
probably as strong as the armies that were giving away extra points, so they were able to dominate for a good while. Like the bees armies were just cleaning up because like if you bring your dragons, the dragons can't kill the bees kill the dragons. They get all these extra points.
get
They
the
get
bonus
massive
points.
wins. Um, so I think it was good for them to try it, and I
Mm,
think that the response that it got was probably more positive than negative, and it makes me excited to see what they do for the next battle scroll because
yeah,
especially in this new handbook, I miss the bigger like the granularity in the scoring. Like there's not as big an opportunity to win more, and I think the battle scroll might be good for less competitive players and more competitive players, maybe for different reasons.
yeah, yeah. No, that's a really good point. And I think you're quite a bit of a proponent. We've discussed this before, where you're much more a fan of rather than nerfing things, so
Okay.
making things worse that are a problem,
Mm-hmm.
like of raising everybody else up,
Yep.
giving bonuses to other things. So I suppose on one hand you could say that by killing those things to get extra points, those are the bonuses for the
Buffs
non-monsters.
everything else. Yeah.
Buff everything else. At the same time, it also kind of is a bit of a nerf for people that are wanting to run those kind of monster heavy lists as well. So it's kind of you're kind of in a bit of a catch-22 there. But I just remember, I think when the hunt came out, and you were thinking, oh wow, okay, so we're getting extra points like Gargants. You were they were a big issue at the time, and you were like, wow, so they're not gonna be ahead on points so much now. You kill a Gargant, you get those extra points. You're
We were
kind of
getting
it's
two
a
for killing them.
yeah,
It was big. Yeah. And people
yeah,
had already been building towards how to kill a Gargant a turn. And a
exactly.
lot of people had figured that out.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
that was just maybe a case of them like being a bit late to react,
yeah,
like not being like finger maybe not quite so on the pulse, which I suppose is a problem with the print rule set. I
yeah.
suppose this was digital, but they've never really seemed Like we've just like today got a purple sun.
Yeah,
It's in the book, like that's in the handbook FAQ for a book that's now 3 months old. And I feel as if that's maybe something they could have came to like change a bit sooner.
yeah,
But
no, definitely. I think that's something I think that a lot of people have voiced against
yeah,
Games Workshop is that they could be a lot more proactive and quicker with updates. I know that in the past, some of their defense against that is that, well, we haven't had enough time to see what the impact is,
not
to
enough
see
data.
what everything's, yeah, not enough, yeah, not enough data. But anyway, but yeah, so I think that the hunt was definitely interesting. It definitely changed things for a lot of different armies, and also it could have just meant that, I think I remember at the time as well, where you had these problem builds, the dragons, the gargants, the whatever, the maw crushers and stuff like that.
Daughters of Ken.
Dorsey, always a problem. They
Yeah,
just went, cool, that's fine. I know that I give away bonuses for you killing my stuff, but I'm getting the
just game
bonuses
boy.
against you as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, cool, game on. And they were almost kind of relishing it as well. So
Hmm.
yeah, it was interesting times. But anyway, so I think we've covered everything really there. That was quite in depth. Now we're going to move on and we're going to talk about, well, what's it all about now? Where are we currently? So we just got. I mean, it seems again, it's one of these things where it doesn't feel like it was just released in June.
Yeah.
It feels like I've been playing season one of the GHP 2022 for the past 2 years. Because I mean, I don't. Is that just me? Because I mean, I know that me and yourself, we play a lot of games. We play a
Yeah.
lot of games. We're constantly testing out lists and factions and getting reps in and stuff like that. But it just feels like I've had galley vets, expert conquerors, and bounty hunters for all my days now.
Yeah.
Like it's just that kind of perspective.
No, it
Um,
feels the same. It's weird.
yeah, it is bizarre. But yeah, so this new book came out. It changed a lot. It
Mhm.
was, I would say, quite a big change, a big swing away from the previous General's Handbook, and potentially a big swing away from the previous meta as well. What was your thoughts? So I mean, we've got up there, we've got the battle scroll updates were removed, so the hunt is gone.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hmm.
don't get those bonus points for the monsters
Yeah.
anymore. What do we think the meta response has been to this new season?
Yeah. So I think that we've seen two responses. The initial response was, "Oh my God, Bounty Hunters gives these units +1 damage," and that was like blinders on. Right, let's
Yeah,
take Bounty Hunters
but
because it
just
buffs.
yeah, just to jump in there, I remember when the new book was getting reviewed on YouTube channels, what have you. People
Yeah.
were talking about it. People were going absolutely bonkers for the expert conquerors. I don't.
Yeah.
It
Really?
feels. I don't know. Maybe
I
that's
can't
just.
remember that.
Maybe it's just my own perspective. I remember
Yeah.
people were talking about, like, imagine having
The
a
Pink
unit.
Horrors was
Pink
one
horrors,
that people used to talk about.
zombies.
Yeah.
Yeah, zombies
Zombies. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
being worth a hundred and
Remodels. Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, on an objective, and I remember people thinking that's going to be a staple
Hmm.
gameplay for a lot of your horde armies because they will just outbody you on objectives. Gargants
Yep.
aren't going to be outbodying you anymore because you'll be outbodying them.
Yep.
And there was a lot of chat about that. And then I remember there was some chat about bounty hunters. Yeah, these units get +1 damage. It's quite good, kind of.
Hmm.
And now I think very quite quickly, it just one overtook the other, and it just became bounty hunters were getting
Yeah.
talked about all the time. There was that classic thing of somebody would just throw a war scroll out there, like, um, blood slick fiends or whatever they're. God, whatever the what are those Slanesh, those Slangors for
Oh yeah.
Slanesh.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, the ones that are
No, I can't remember the name of
absolutely
them.
terrible. Is it
Flick blades or something
something
or
like that, like Zangor
yeah.
Slickblades, something like that? And I don't think anyone's ever fielded them in their entire lives. But anyone could just throw like a war scroll like that and say, "Is this any good now?" And it says, "Well, they get +1 damage in bounty hunters.
Yeah,
That's the tagline. They get +1 damage in bounty hunters.
I
Um,
think that was the thought process. The thought process was, oh my God, we're going to have zombies count as 120 models on objectives. How do we deal with that? And the
yeah,
answer was, well, what you do is you find a unit that has a whole bunch of attacks and you give them +1 damage against zombies. So
yeah,
people stopped talking about zombies and started just talking about these units.
yeah,
But then I feel as if people just kind of kept on with that train of thought and just assumed that those units had +1 damage. They don't. They only have +1 damage against galley vets. And then you
correct.
started
Yeah,
seeing more people reducing the number of galley vets that they had in their lists and
yeah,
thinking about clever ways to take units that weren't galley vets. So, like, we see people ally and stuff in, or like building their list in such a way to make certain units that would otherwise become battle line in a different allegiance or whatever, like, but make them not battle line.
yeah,
Um, to mitigate people taking these bounty hunters. And then that's went even further to the point now people are just not taking bounty hunters. And we're seeing so many more 1 and 2 drops.
yeah,
And I think it goes back to what I've been experiencing in my games where the scoring is so flat that it's actually so much more important to have control of
yeah.
the turn orders. If I can build a list to be 3 drop with bounty hunters or 1 drop without, I will take 1 drop without.
Yep.
Like I would not take bounty hunters unless my list design forced me into such a way that I would be more than 2 or 3 drops. Because I
Okay.
just feel like it never gives as much value. So one of the big things that I was looking into as well, Night Hunt are going to be everywhere. They're easy to get. They've got really strong lists.
Yep.
How do I kill them? +1 damage is great. And then they just build 1 or 2 Crusaders into their list, and then, well, what's the point?
Well, that's the thing. I
So
think it was as a Night Hunt player. Obviously, I'm quite biased
yeah,
towards this, but I did find it quite funny that along with the release of there's this battalion that gives you +1 damage, and then but there's this hero that also gives to just
-1
completely
damage.
completely
Yeah,
nullifies that battalion. So if somebody's went and took that, and that's
yep,
increased their drops by up to 3, and
yep.
you're like, ha, well, you have no benefit whatsoever for that. You've just wasted your time. So
Daughters
yeah,
of
like
Cain, they've got the Heart of Fury to reduce the damage as
yeah,
well. Their
exactly. Yeah,
whole army is
reduce damage one.
Gallivets, so yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No, and but yeah, as you say, quite a quick call and response from
hmm
the meta there. People talking about one thing, and expert conquerors. Yeah, but just it's fine. You can kill them all with bounty hunters. Okay, that's fine. But then we need to like, so how do we then stop bounty hunters? Well, we take less Galician veterans, so they can't then get the bonuses. And
yeah,
then yeah, and I have noticed that a lot more now that there's yeah, as you said, there's a lot more thought going into lists where people are so rather than taking that 10-man single wound squad as a screen, they'll take the 5-man mounted squad
hmm
as a screen.
yep,
They might be slightly dearer, but you're not getting the bonus damage against them because they have mounts, so
yep.
Galician veterans no worky, and so then you're not getting the bonus damage from the bounty hunters onto them as well. And I've definitely noticed more people that can take mounted screens or mounted units that are just good in themselves as well. They just become better because they're also countering your opponent's bounty hunters as well. My
Yep.
first thoughts would be going to say your pigs, your gore grunters for Orc Warclans. They're amazing because they can be bounty hunters themselves, and they're
Yep.
never going to get bounty hunted back because of the
Back.
fact that
Yeah.
they're mounted as well. Um,
Heroes as well. I've started to see more
mhm.
big hero builds enter
Yeah,
the fray. Like the Gargant list is doing well again.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
not galley vets. Nagash has
yeah.
been doing pretty good.
hmm Don't
So
don't
like,
mention don't mention the gash to me. Don't mention the gash.
oh no.
So that's just a running joke for me here, the gash. But yeah, so that's an interesting point as well because I kind of initially said that the new season felt like a big swing away from the monster mash meta because we're not getting the bonus points for killing things with monsters and battle tactics with monsters. We're not getting bonus points for killing monsters. But then,
Mhm.
oh, so you're not getting bonus points. So if I take monsters, they're not getting bonus points. My opponent's not getting bonus points for killing them.
Yep.
The hunt is gone. Oh, okay. So those mega gargants then, they're not going to be getting 2 points. My opponent's not getting 2 points for killing them as well. So even though I think this was kind of highly touted as this was going to be the horde meta, the infantry meta, the galley vets meta,
Yep.
but I think also it's opened the door for your monsters to come back, um,
Yep.
almost come back from the dead that was maybe the hunt and some other nerfs that they may have got, and now we've actually got some play here because we are monstrous rampaging willy nilly.
Yep.
There's no more
There's
Hunters of the
nothing to
Heartlands
stop it.
behind,
Yeah.
nothing to stop it apart from what one Stormcast subfaction.
Which is
Um,
probably one of the more powerful ones now.
exactly. So you've got that added layer of protection, but nobody else is getting that. So everyone's getting roared, everyone's getting stomped,
Hmm.
um, which is kind of a big deal. I remember I used to really
Roar's
like,
massive.
yeah, I used to really like taking
Yeah.
the Hunters of the Heartlands because all they need is that 3 up. I'm not using, I can't use all out defense, I can't use all out attack, whatever. So I've noticed a lot more with my Nighthaunt against monsters. I can't get my 5 up shrug, I can't get that discorporate now when they swing into me, which is a big deal.
Yep.
So I
I
think.
think that the dragon build, I know that the slide
Mhm.
has the big red cross next to the dragons, but I think the way that the meta has been shifting away from bounty hunters to lore drops recently, I think that there is a lot of questions to be answered when
Yeah,
facing an 8 dragon 1 drop list at the
yeah, yeah,
moment.
absolutely.
Like it's still like they might not have that same alpha potential, but
Hmm.
the you don't necessarily need that with the battle tactics that are
Yeah,
available now as well. They like lists like that are still going to do really good.
absolutely. I mean, the things that made them really good, they've still got them. They've still got the mortal wound breath attacks. As long as you haven't reinforced a unit, they can still do that twice, right? With
Yep, they get to reroll a charge for free now.
get reroll charge for free. Now, admittedly, not as great as once per game. You just move as
12
basically
inches of
across
charge. Yeah.
the whole entire board. But
Mhm.
they've still got defensive capabilities, they've still got offensive capabilities. Now they have even more offensive capabilities because they've got access to bounty hunters as well. So I agree completely. I think that these builds that were very big, say maybe last year's meta, and then fell away, I think that they could definitely get a resurgence. And we are seeing a resurgence. I mean, what was that at the weekend? Broken Realms in Glasgow, 50-player event. Mega Gargants were, vying for the tournament win.
It
Game
won. Yep.
five,
Well,
So,
it's one of the highest win rate armies right
mhm,
now, and I think that part of it is because people have been moving away towards things like bounty hunters
yeah,
and compromising their army build for it, and you don't get any benefit against them. The grand strategies are quite hard to achieve with them on the table
yeah,
because you need to play in a certain way to deal with them.
mhm.
A lot of them include the Cron Spine, which I don't know if we're going to touch on, but is obviously warping the
Feel free.
meta
Yeah,
quite a
that
bit.
was that was something I hadn't
Um,
actually included in the slide, but that's definitely
yeah,
something that's new
um,
and it needs to be addressed. Yeah. Hmm.
and the other what was the other thing I was going to say is the triple gatebreaker one as well, which was doing quite good before, but now you're removing the weaker Gargant and putting that Cron Spine in, which can't be killed.
Hmm.
Oh, that was the other thing I was going to say. There's a couple of missions that have
Yeah.
specific ways of being scored, and they can
Yeah.
use their allegiance ability, which changes how objectives are scored to get
Yes.
around some of them. So,
Very
a lot of
strong.
the ones that you can't control the objective turn one,
Yeah.
they can technically get around things like that with their allegiance, which can give them a bit of an advantage as well. The mission where you get a bonus point for killing a Galatian veteran unit, like it's not possible for them to take a Galatian veteran unit in their army. So
Yeah.
they're already up a minimum of 3 points in a lot of instances, or 6 points if those units are contested objectives when they die. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that they're going to be pretty strong. I guess we need to wait and see what happens with their new
Of
battle tome
course,
that's
with the
been
new tome.
announced.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, we will touch upon that. We're going to be doing a wee kind of predictions bit at the end as well. What we think maybe the meta is going to change and evolve. But no, you've raised a good point there as well. There's two things we need to talk about, I think, and that is Cronspine
mhm.
and Purple Sun.
Yeah.
That's the two things we need to talk about. Now,
Mhm.
there has been quite an apt change this week to the Purple Sun.
Yep.
That's so let's just touch upon that right now. Then let's just dive right in. So, Purple Sun probably. one of the most polarizing things in the game, mechanics, things in the game that
Yeah.
we've seen so far, um, and just can be insanely strong, game breaking if bad things happen to the opponent. So, um, I mean, I was going to say for those of you that don't know, surely everybody knows what Purple Sun does at this stage, but we'll talk about
Nightmare
it.
fuel.
We'll talk about it anyway. You mean night haunt fuel? Sorry. Um,
Yeah.
uh, so when you bring this big thing out, this big massive Purple Sun of Shaiish, which I hate the fact that it's so massive and spiky and it has a smaller base really than the actual circumference of it.
Yeah.
So you can fit it into places, but you can fit the base into places, but you can't fit the model into places
The
because it's
model, yeah.
so freaking wide and spiky. But anyway, so if you bring this out wholly within 8 of your caster, it then moves 8 at the end of your movement phase, so 16 inches from the caster,
Mm.
and then when it finishes its move, every unit within 3 inches, roll a dice on a 1, and one model from that unit is slain. Now, obviously, not much of a huge deal in your 10 mans, 20 mans, 30 man units, but for certain models, such as
Yeah.
big monsters, big pumping combat heroes, even just buff heroes, that you could just
Yeah.
on that cheeky roll of a 1, good night,
Yeah.
so, and that is just it's huge. It's kind of inexplicable in a way that for a 70 point unit, and for some people it just happens. It's just like an auto thing. They can just auto cast it. They don't even need to roll dice. They don't even need to worry about their opponent dispelling it. They can just bring
Yeah.
it out. It does its thing. If they roll
Hmm.
those ones, it's gone. So I've seen. I mean, let's face it. I am one of those people. I'm a Night Haunt player. I'm running the Midnight Tome on my little Guardian of Souls, the relic that allows me to auto cast Sun. Can't be unbound. Um, job's a
Except by
good one.
Corn.
So also that's why you play Corns, the Night
Aye.
Haunt counter. But yeah, it just comes out, does its thing. If you get a one, if you get one's great. It's kind of like just Brucey bonuses. But I've seen this thing take off Achillean Kings, Leviathans, Ironclads. Was there not some hilarious thing on Twitter that it took off?
Belicors.
Well, Bellicors, yeah. Was there not a
I've
hilarious
seen
thing on
it
Twitter?
take off an Archeon
I was
that
going to say,
rolled
did it not
a
take off an
5 up,
Archeon?
5 up, 4 up, ignoring the like to ignore and failed all of the ignores,
Oh
and
my,
then the
the
one got through.
oh
Seen
my
it. I've seen a few
god.
things like that, like a couple of just absolute random things,
Yeah.
like where there's been like 3 big giant monsters and the one turn.
Well, I
I'm
mean,
trying to remember his name. There's the
was
famous clip on Twitter where both the Maw Crushers get taken off inside, like with one purple sun, like in the one hero phase.
yeah.
Mental.
We've seen our own Stu West with the Northern Invasion take off
Scarbrand and
poor
Blunderstone.
poor Eric's. Yeah, just
Yeah,
see you later. Like, thanks for playing. Is there any point we just talk this out now? Yeah, 70
the bad
points, and
man.
we'll just talk it out. But that's the thing, is like it's your Donald Duck, isn't it? It's the roll of the dice. If you can get those ones, then it's great. And then on top of that, within 6 inches, you're getting reduced save by 1.
Yeah,
So I've heard it so many times, and I agree. That alone is probably enough to take the end of the spell. You've got
yeah.
a
I think you can build your list around that. So I think
yeah,
I think that the Purple Sun does a funny thing to the game in stats because it's cheap enough that people can build it into their list to benefit from the consistent nature of the additional pip of rend
yeah,
from being within 6. And being within 6 of such a big base is going to be quite like easy to achieve. But I think that what we're seeing, unfortunately, with the stats being so close and a lot of like the mid to high 50s, like, or I suppose the mid 50s being the kind of upper echelon of the win percentages,
yeah,
I think a small part of that might be down to the chaos that's coming from just not being able to account for the number of ones that get rolled on purple
correct.
suns because like you might think that rolling the one's rare, but you're just as likely
Yeah,
to roll a 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Like it's just there's a 1 in 6 chance to just kill something, and you're
yeah,
rolling for it 10 times a game if you get out turn 1.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, I think that the nature of that being available to every single army, like the Grondspine as well, which we'll touch on, I guess, is probably equalising a lot of these armies in a way.
yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see with the changes because they've put the points up,
Yep.
they've left the armor save thing as it is,
Yep.
and then they've changed the instant kill to firstly to 1 inch, and
Hmm.
then for bigger models, so 10 wounds and up, it's d6 plus 6 mortal wounds,
Yep.
which is much more palatable.
Yep.
Um,
So it's
so we'll see
still,
what sort of impact that has, because I think we'll
yeah,
see a lot less of them. Still
yeah.
good.
Oh yeah, I think still a
It's
great spell.
amazing if you can afford 90 points in your army to put it in for the rend.
Hmm.
Then I think that it's incredibly powerful. But I think we will start to see a lot of the weaker armies that were taking it not take it anymore.
Not take it so much more. Yeah, and again, it's you kind of have to weigh up the kind of risk reward as well because you're having to risk can I even cast it in the first place.
Hmm.
Um, when you're saying that you're putting the points up now, and you're like, well, if I've not got a reliable way to get this thing out to actually get this to do its thing, then yeah, maybe
It's a
I
fire and
need to
forget.
come
Yeah,
away. Yeah.
I had it in my Bone Splitters army where in some games I had no bonuses to cast, but
Hmm.
like why not 70 points?
Yeah,
So
and there was nothing else you could put in. Whereas now,
yeah,
up at the 90 point bracket, there maybe is some things that you can fit in other than that
definitely.
as well. Yeah. Well, I know I'll still be keeping it in
I know you
my
will.
my list. Still gonna keep rolling them ones.
Yeah.
That's the dream. So yeah. So Purple Sun, perfect. Cronspine. Let's talk about
Yeah.
Cronspine. Okay. Again, another quite polarizing unit. Um, yeah. What do we think?
So people have hated Marathi since day dot because they've not been able to remove something inside one turn, which has the
Yeah.
potential to remove so much from your army,
Yeah.
is to use the term is incredibly NPE or negative play experience. So
Mm.
this is just that, but affordable and available to every single army. So you either get armies that are already good that can just slot the Cron Spine in, either to just be a fire and forget screen, push it out, let your opponent kind of bunch up around it, and then go in and
Yeah.
take them out. Um, or like for myself, I took it this weekend. One because it was getting a bit hard to get the rest of my army painted, but at the same time, what better way to deal with other people's cron spines than your own cron spine?
Yeah.
Especially because I'm running a bunch of monsters I don't want it to kill.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, like it's just so good. Like there really isn't an answer to it. You can't you can't counter it.
Yeah.
Like there's no like this just counters Cronspines. Like you still
Exactly.
need to deal with it. You still need to
Hmm.
feed it stuff.
Yeah.
If you've got shooting, shooting is less damage generally than combat
Yeah.
for most armies. So you're having to dedicate a much higher points value of your army to dealing with something that's really cheap. It's 400 points. It's not a big investment in your army
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
And
that's why you
something.
see so many of them.
Yeah, and I think as you say, the fact that you're needing so you're going to have more damage in combat. Okay, so you're going to have to put something in that's going to have an appreciable level of damage in order to kill it. But then that
Yeah,
means that so you'll do that, takes it down by a level. It's still around, and then let's say you get the double or even if you don't, that thing's still going to pin you there thanks to the no
still there.
retreat aura. So it's just an amazing pinning piece where you can
Yeah,
use it to neutralise temporarily a threat of your opponent's army to then work on the rest of it, and it can give you that extra 1 or 2 turns to whittle down the rest of your opponent's army before you then need to deal with maybe that big damage threat unit. I know that you use
mhm,
the Cronspine to great effect at the weekend, just as a pinning piece for your units that are maybe not going to make it across the table had your opponent been able to unleash the full amount of power projection on them. But the Cronspine
mhm.
just rattles forward, charge, cool, I've pinned this, I've got this for a couple of turns, right? You guys you catch up or whatever.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, huge.
Yeah, you're seeing it with shooting armies. You're seeing it with combat armies. Like you're seeing it in pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Um, just it does what it does irrespective of the allegiance that it's in.
Hmm.
So, like I think that we're seeing some allegiances lean more into it. Like Hallowheart is able to use a lot
Yeah.
of its buffs on it because
Hmm.
they're just pick a friendly model,
Exactly.
which is really strong. But yeah, like it's at least with Marathi. if you do 3 wounds to Marathi, then those 3 wounds stick.
Hmm.
But against the Kronspine, if you want to make sure that you're getting rid of it in a couple of turns, you need to do 18 damage to a 4-up base
Hmm.
model. That if you try to do the 18 damage in combat, it's going to hit you back with, like, what's the level 2 potential? It's 8 attacks, so 16.
Yep. And then
Uh,
you've got what
then
through?
another 12, so
Yeah.
28 damage at Ren 2 and Ren 3.
Hmm.
And if any of that damage comes from monsters, so if you want to put a monster in, if it kills the monster, it gets even stronger and stays
Yeah.
around longer. It
Of
gets another
course.
18 wins.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you want to use endless spells, if a lot of the endless spells now are 5 cast, and
Hmm.
if it eats the endless spell, it goes up a level as
Goes up a
well.
level as well. Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely a problem. I'm interested to see how they deal with it because I think we all know it's going to get nerfed. I think
Yeah.
that
It's
they put it up for sale a couple of weeks ago.
yeah. Yeah.
They're going to make some bucks from it, and then they'll maybe publish the nerf.
I mean, good luck selling any because the 3D printers already flooded the market with with
Yeah,
that one
there's
that one
that
sculpt.
one D&D model
So
everybody's using.
everyone just like everyone in the world is. I don't think I've actually ever seen the real GW model
In one in the
on the
wild,
table.
only one.
God, one of the world. But anyway, so maybe something to be have a wee chat about when we talk about predictions, future predictions.
Mhm.
Before we do that, very quickly, top three winners, top three losers of the new state of affairs. So what do we think?
Top 3 winners. I don't think anybody yet has an effective answer to Magic of Nurgle, and I think that they're being slept on. Like I
Okay.
think that it's maybe got the downside of being a bit of a boring army, the
Hmm.
bees, but it hasn't got any worse.
No.
I played it on the weekend, and it was
Hmm.
you did as well. It's
Yeah, I did.
still
It was rough.
it's incredibly hard to
Hmm.
play against, and I think that version that William was using maybe wasn't the most refined version that you
Yeah.
can access now.
You could actually soup it up
Uh,
even further. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I got to agree with that. I
they're big.
think that they're a great. I think it's just a great all rounder, aren't they? In terms of, you're going to a tournament, you want to be taking something that can kind of be an all comers, like a kind of can that could have
Hmm.
play into everyone. And I think they do. I think they do, and I think that along with their survivability, their toughness, they've got good damage output, they've got a lot of mortal
Yeah,
wound potential as well. I think it's yeah, that's a great shout for that. Um,
KO's being slept on.
Yep, I would agree. I would agree. I mean, I think that we are quite, we don't have a lot, we don't have a lot of KO players up here on the Scottish scene, do we?
No.
I know that a kind of good friend of ours, Phil McGuinness, he was a big KO guy.
Yeah.
Um, that was a good while ago though. He's been running War Clans mainly. Gosh, there was somebody that I played recently at a tournament who's running KO. Can't for the life of me remember. Sorry, apologies if you're watching this. But yeah, so I can think about one time I've seen KO thus far, and I think you're right. I think they definitely do have game in this new meta, especially with the updates that the Admiral got.
Yeah.
You've now got
Removing the ward
yeah,
saves.
access and reward saves, which is huge against Sigmar. I mean, let's talk about Nurgle. It's going to be huge against them. Take away their five
It would
ups.
be. Yeah.
It's going to be great. Um, their ability to neuter some of those kind of bigger damage threat units that can fly with
Hmm.
the Etheric Navigators, half in movement, and you can stack that as well. You've got some
Yeah.
powerful sub-faction relics like the is it the stave that can half charge rolls
Yeah.
for a unit as well. So I think there's a, and then you've still got the spell in the bottle potential as well
Hmm.
from Barak Zulfin as well. And there's just a lot of
A
shooting,
lot of guns.
and they can
Yeah.
still scalpel people off. And I think there's missions now where there's a lot more objectives. There's 8 objective missions, six
Yeah.
objective missions where they're going to have a lot more play with that as well. I think that's a great shout.
Used to they used to fall short on the number of shots with Rend. Like a lot of their army was just that Rend one. And I
Hmm.
think now that they have that ability to get out the Purple Sun in that one turn that they need it to be able to unleash
Hmm.
all of their firepower into
Yeah,
something, because they would fall short against the kind of 3-up saves,
yeah,
like armies and
100%.
stuff. I think, and then ward saves on top of that, because there's a lot of things that have like a 3-up, 5-up or something.
Yeah,
The fact
no,
that they can get
absolutely.
around that inside of a big powerhouse turn, they've got board wide mobility. Um, yeah, and they importantly changed the being able to get out after flying high, didn't they? That was one of
Yes, they
the
did. That was the fact that
right.
came out. Yeah, which was again,
That's huge.
it's as no, it is. That was a big point of contention. I know there was a lot of KO players that were having to go to tournaments, and it was up to the TO. They were ruling whether or not they could move,
They
or
do
whether
it, yeah.
or whether if they got out, if the ship could then move or not, and that was it because of obviously a new rewrite, a new book's required for garrisoning the rules,
Hmm.
but now they've taken that garrisonable, the garrison rules, and they've now just kind of bent and twisted it so much now that
Hmm.
you kind of really need to know your stuff. I think for KO to play them correctly, which I think
Yeah,
even a lot of the kind of tournament players were still maybe not. Um,
yeah.
I think great shout for the KO. I think for me, if I'm picking the third one, I'm going to be so biased right now. I'd say Night Haunt. I'd say they are one of the biggest winners, not only with their new book, but just with the rule play from and the mechanics from the new General's Handbook.
They are
I
strong.
think Galician Veterans, I think, has been amazing. The fact that you can fight in those two ranks with your 32mm models,
Hmm.
with your Bladegeist, with I mean, you could already do it with the Grimgas and stuff like that, but even the things like the oh god, I don't, what are they called again? The ones that have like four attacks each and the little
Yeah.
blade arms, you know.
Dreadside
There we go,
Paradins. Yeah.
perfect. The Harridans as well. You know, the fact that you can get a big squad of them and they're still fighting in the two ranks as well, I think, is insanely powerful. And I think yeah, they got juiced up. Um, as I say, with the new season, I think that they're
The
very
new
very
book
strong,
was just
big
really
winners.
strong.
Yeah.
The book was a strong book. Um,
Hmm.
my the only reason they weren't higher up on the list for me is that I think that they're very close to the danger zone that Gargants found themselves in at the end of 2021,
Yeah.
where they were doing so well that if you are a consistent 4-1 player, you're going into the event saying, okay, how do I deal with Night Hunt?
Yeah.
Like, how do I deal with Gargants? And I think that's why we're starting to see things like that KO build and stuff,
Hmm.
which can quite handedly deal with Night Hunt,
Yeah.
just due to the weight of dice, single damage.
Hmm.
If you're investing into an army that has like damage reduction tools in it and stuff that has no bearing on shooting, then that's inefficient. And we're even seeing like the castle bomb. Like I think I kind of shared my own version of it a couple of weeks ago, but we saw
Yeah.
JJ run it quite
Yeah.
effectively this
Yeah. Very
weekend.
effectively.
And I think that lists like that are coming out of these kind of castle armies. It's just a testament to how fast the meta moves at the
Hmm.
moment, because as soon as that takes hold, GW will come in and nerf Night Haunt. The
And
castle busting build doesn't
yeah,
work anymore either.
exactly.
Like they just kind of take out two
Yeah,
things with one swell hook swoop.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah, and I'm fully awaiting the nerf bat to hammer down.
yeah,
But as I say, I think yeah
they gain
they
so
got
much.
yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I think just as we even said that they gain so much and they also debuff so much as well. You know
Hmm.
the damage reduction, the res
Order
ability
gas
of
stability
units. Yeah,
on
the
every
da-
single unit.
on
Yeah,
every
it's
unit in the
massive.
army,
Yeah,
retreating charge,
everything
every
retreat and
single unit,
charge.
everything retreat. It's not just like one or two things; it's everything. I remember reading
Yeah,
the sub allegiance abilities and it just being like, when do they end? My
2 pages.
God! And then on the charge, like I'm able to get something up to -7
Five rent and
rend.
that. Yeah.
Like what? Like bonkers. Anyway, so we'll say no more on that. But yeah, I think some good picks there. Um,
Mhm.
three losers.
Those are
What do we think? And this isn't to be like if you play any of these factions that we're about to mention, we're not saying that they are terrible, that they suck, but we're maybe just saying that they they've lost something with the new meta that has evolved. Yeah,
Need to think what armies are doing like wholesale like worse.
because as you say,
Uh,
we're seeing quite a big spread, aren't we, of
like
lots of armies doing well.
yeah, like I think that the ones that it's hard to say that they're losers because they weren't doing particularly good in the last edition anyway, but we didn't really see like Gloomspite Gits is still bottom of the stats
I
table
mean, I was
and
immediately
they're
thinking
massively
Gits. Yeah, I was
yeah,
immediately thinking
but
Gits, but
it's weird though because I don't think that we're seeing people playing the one sort of good build that we know of with them.
hmm
So like the trog, I don't know if it's using the Cron spine. It probably is, right? But like the trog build where
hmm
they're 4 wound models, so they become Galatian veterans. They have an inbuilt 5 up ward.
yeah,
They do an insane amount of
they
damage.
do. They hit
They hit on threes and threes
so
for being
hard.
trolls. Yeah.
Yeah,
So like they can really like destroy almost anything. They've got
yeah,
an inbuilt teleport into their army. Their
yeah.
wizards are somewhat efficient,
I think
cheap, easy access to +1, +2.
yeah, I think the biggest thing for them, and it has always been, is like yes, they can hit hard. Yes, they can be survivable. It's the delivery mechanism, I think, for them,
Yeah,
because what they move, they're just moving that six,
yeah,
and redeploy's a thing, unfortunately, and
it is. Yeah,
you've got like yeah, I've got this big brick of six trogs, and they're going to come up for a charge. I think they've got a 7-inch charge. Like oh well, no, actually they can't make it at all because
yeah.
I've rolled a six on the redeploy weapon. Now that doesn't happen often, all the time, but it can completely, yeah, just neutralise some of the bigger threats in the army. I think.
I'm looking at the list of armies here, and maybe it's controversial to say, but I don't feel as if like maybe I did at the time feel as
hmm
if like some of the more monster focused armies did lose something,
hmm
but now the way that we're seeing the game be played a few months in, I almost don't feel as if there is much in the way of maybe Lumineth. They're still a good army.
hmm
Maybe they play the most different to how they used
Yeah.
to.
Well, they're about to get an update as well, so
Yeah, of
that's the thing.
course.
It's
Yeah.
them, which is something we'll touch upon as well. But yeah, what about the old? So you know how War Clans as a book
hmm
it's quite spicy. What would you say is probably the biggest loser out of that entire book?
Well, Crow Boys have never really done good, have
Yeah,
they?
no, and I
They've not
think
really been buffed in any way though. Like even with points, I think the one change they gave them in the battle scroll was they made one sub faction that they can access can't be shot from outside 12,
yeah, that was it.
which is a good strong ability,
Great
but
ability, great ability.
we've not really been seeing a lot of shooting armies.
No, and I think it's an odd one because I think when they initially came out, everyone thought that the what is it, the old Yellers or big Yellers or whatever the
The
shooting the Bolt
fucking
Boys list
shooting is strong.
was just going to rinse everyone,
It's
and
just so counterable.
yeah, and we've not really seen. I think they themselves as units, they're a strange one because you want the double shots, so you
Mhm.
want to move, but as soon as you do that, you drastically
12
reduce
inch
their
range.
range,
Yeah.
and then you can counter that. Um,
Yep.
the other thing that they've not got going for them is they don't have good staple battle line options as well.
Too
Gut
expensive.
gut rippers
180 points or
and
something.
hobgrots, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, and we're in the world of bounty. I think they've definitely lost because in the world of bounty hunters, anything touches them, they're gone.
Yeah, they just melt. Agreed.
Um, and I know that people are obviously they're gonna know that and they're gonna take the minimum battle line that's required of them,
Mhm.
but just not not having really anything with any sort of play I think is a shame. Excuse me. And yeah, I'd say that I felt that the line when it came out when it got released, I really quite liked the models. Thought they were really cool, and then I just feel like they've never really caught on, and I feel like they've just got worse and worse as the kind of game has progressed. The game has
Yeah.
went forward. So yeah, that would be my pick for one of the losers. I think for the new
Definitely a
edition.
loser inside the battle zone, for sure.
hmm Oh yeah, and within that as well. And it was funny because people used to think it was the Savage Oryx, I think that they were maybe not so flat on, but you've ran
Pretty
them
decent.
multiple people and pretty good, pretty spicy.
Yeah, they're good.
So yeah, okay, perfect.
But that was
So
that was one battle scroll update. So
mhm,
maybe we just need to wait for them to get
maybe
the
we
right
just need
one
something.
for them.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, so I'm just looking at the time now.
Hmm.
We're about we were saying before we'd like to keep these probably to
An hour.
about an hour. So we are currently 10 minutes over. So let's very quickly we'll just try and rattle through this last slide here. So predictions for the future. So what will
Yeah.
the meta landscape look like? Who do we think is going to get hit with the nerf hammer? We've kind of touched on a few of these points already. And what do we think the new season GHB will bring? So the landscape. We already know what books we're going to be getting. We're getting Zinch, we're getting Lumineth, we're getting more tribes, we're getting the big ogres, we're getting Suns, and we know that we're getting another Slaves book near the end of the year.
Yeah.
So without going in too much detail, because we don't really know too much already, what do we think the meta is going to evolve into? Do we think?
Um, there was a lot of Sons of Behemoth armies kicking about when they were at their zenith
Mm-hmm.
last year. So I expect that whatever that book brings, that they're going to be popular.
Okay.
So if it ends up being a good book like the last one, I could see them dominating again for a while.
Yeah.
Just because there doesn't seem to be much in the way of answers to monsters, like as you touched on, like there you can't build certain units to be immune to roar, and it's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of Rend 2
Mm-hmm.
and high damage.
Yeah. Yeah.
They count for a lot of models on objectives if that stays the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could see them doing pretty well. And yeah, I don't really know. I've not really been following much at all with the Lumineth and the Zinch. Like I'm
Yeah.
really guilty of this. Like when something comes out, I'll consume it like to excess, but on the run up to it, I don't really tend to pay much attention. I don't like to read rules and dribs and drabs. I'd
Yeah.
rather just see the whole thing
Of course. Yeah.
when it
Yeah.
comes out. Um, but as far as like what I see happening with the meta leading up to the new handbook or the new season, probably I think that what we're seeing with these one drop builds with smaller elite units, like I think that we are going to see bees and dragons and stuff come more to the forefront of the meta for a little while,
Okay.
and then we'll see what happens with these new magic focused battle tomes that we're going to get, because
Yeah.
it could be a good way to deal with elite units if there's a lot of control spells.
Absolutely. So that was one thing that I've been thinking about. When you see the two next books, the kind of double release, both heavy magic users, I do wonder if we're
Mhm.
maybe going to go into a bit of magic supremacy.
Corn,
Um, in the next, what's that? Sorry.
corn, blood for the blood god.
God, God, God. Should answer for everything. But yeah, so I do wonder if
Yeah.
over the next few months we might see a resurgence in, because I don't think we're really seeing it right now with Magic. Um, but I think
But
that
we're seeing it with the endless spells, aren't we?
yeah, I suppose in the spells, yeah, they've been a nice kind of added spice. There's a lot more play to them now. But I think that we might see, if Siege come back in a big way, and they come back with their high damage, mortal wound type spells, control type spells, Lumineth exactly the same. We know that they're still going to keep their. I say we know, pretty sure they're keeping their sun metal. Um, Weaponry. So for the mortals, we know that they had great control spells as well.
Mhm.
They've got the main magic abuser Teclis in the army as well. I do
Yeah.
wonder if we're going to maybe see a wee new dawn into the old kind of maybe blue control deck um, coming.
That whole
I know
CP cost.
I hate a bloody
Yeah.
total eclipse. There's one thing I would love to see, and I would love to see the foot-based ogres to get a bit of a glow up. I
Yeah.
think for so long they've been so maligned, and I think that they've got some of the best, maybe not the best models, because they are
Hmm.
maybe showing their age a wee bit, but
Way
in
back.
terms of I just remember back to when I got into Ogre Kingdoms, when I used to play Warhammer Fantasy Battles, and I just thought that the lore, the artwork, I loved the guys on foot. I wasn't really interested in the guys that rode the big, massive, fighty beasts. It was the guys on foot for me that were carrying around cannons, actual
Yeah,
cannons,
lead belchers.
as
Yeah.
just hand cannons. It was the guys, Iron Guts, the man eaters. Oh god, it was so good to get some good man eater sculpts and like an actual decent unit as well.
Mhm.
Um, so I know what I'd love to see with them is a big glow up. I don't know if we will see it, but maybe not. And then yeah, going into the kind
Well,
of later in the year, I know there was a few people talking that with the Suns doing so well at tournaments just now and what have you, there's maybe a bit of a worry that with the new book it could change things slightly.
mhm. I think
And
that they'll probably like fix the abusing of mission scoring
yeah,
because it was an answer to the hero scoring mission,
yeah,
wasn't it?
hmm
Because their ability didn't really interact well with that. But we don't have any of those missions in this newest handbook
hmm
where only certain units control certain objectives.
yeah,
So I would like to think that they remove that option for them to abuse it from the tome,
yeah, yeah. No,
which
um,
might impact. I don't know.
yeah, no. I think so. I think that's it's a strange rule that you don't generally maybe tend to think about, but can be quite game breaking in
Mhm.
its own way as well. Definitely. In terms of the nerf hammer, what are we thinking? I think
Night Hunt, please.
that's fully
Yeah,
expect something. I think Cronspine, as we've touched upon already,
yeah. Kronspine, I think,
something
is
will
the
have
big
to
one.
change. Yeah. I think. I mean, Purple Suns has received a bit of a nerf. Do we think it was
Mhm.
enough of a nerf?
Um, I if we're gonna see nerfs, I like nerfs like that because
Mm-hmm.
it could be looked at as not really that much of a nerf. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think we've already touched on the fact that if people were building a competitive list to include the Sun, they were doing it for the AP.
Yeah.
Like the rando killer model was an added bonus, but you're only paying an extra 20 points for the same effect now.
Yeah.
And if you are a Purple Sun abuser, you're not really going to need to worry so much about your opponent's Purple Suns because there's
That's
going to be
true.
less people
Absolutely.
that look to take them. So, yeah, like I think that it's a good change,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that it'll have an effect on the number of suns that we see in the meta, which is
Agreed.
maybe enough. You
Yeah.
don't want to see a cool model like the purple sun just not get used. It's a cool
Yeah.
model, it's a
As a
pain
cool
in the
model.
arse to
Yeah.
use,
Yeah.
but I don't like things just getting nerfed into the ground and we don't see it anymore.
Yeah.
That's not nice unless
No,
it's
definitely.
Teclis. Um,
Stickers.
the model sucks.
But
So
does the guy just like that? Just
yeah.
no, agreed. Yeah, I think you're spot on there. I think we'll still see it. I don't think we'll see it as much, but I think
Mhm.
yeah, definitely still has its uses. As I say, I know that I'm definitely going to find a use for it, and yeah, yeah, hopefully keep rolling them ones. Okay, very quickly, last point. Any thoughts as to what the second season, season two of the 2022 to 2023 General's Handbook. So we're due for it round about December, January, we think,
Mhm.
if we're going off the 6 month release schedule.
Yeah.
So we've had Monster Mash theme initially. I'd say current theme is the kind of theme of the battle line
Troops.
troops. Yeah,
Mhm.
the troops on the ground, the 10 mans, the 20 mans, the 30 man squads. Do we have any thoughts to what we think the next theme is going to be?
So we've had monsters or behemoths, we've had troops or battle line. So it really only leaves artillery and heroes if we're looking at
Mm-hmm.
um,
Kind of
the
battlefield
what's it called,
roles.
the
Yeah,
battlefield
yeah.
roles. So if they stick on message, then it could be one of those maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just hope that they naively, I hope they don't change too much.
Yeah.
Um, Because while it feels like we've been playing it for a while, like I still don't know the name of every single. Like if you said name every battle tactic, I don't think I could tell you every single one of them without
Yeah,
having to
yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Whereas with the old handbook, it did become kind of
Mm.
like second nature. I think 6 months is maybe a bit too quick.
Yeah, I
It's like if
think
you look at our tournament schedule as well, like we've only got what, 3 tournaments
within that six
really,
month
like
period.
within that 6 month period, like
Yeah.
big ones.
And,
So
and as you say, I think you're saying that there's you wouldn't be able to name every battle tactic, and that kind of shows that well clearly there's only. I mean, I know myself. When I'm playing the game, when I think about it, there's three autos that I just
mhm.
know that I'm going to do, and then there's maybe two or three flex ones that
Yeah,
I'm going to try and get me my five, and there's ones in there that I just don't even look at, don't just ignore because I'm just like it might even be that my army composition I can't even get them, or that is a
yeah.
really very difficult thing. Like my general's not going to kill anything, so I'm never going to take
Feel
that
a
one there.
bit. They're running close to making people feel a little bit jaded if they
Hmm.
stick to this kind of like drastic polarizing list building cycle every
Yeah,
6 months. Like
yeah.
if we're moving from monsters to
Well,
troops to like
yeah, and
how many
it's
armies have artillery pieces? That's the next
yeah.
fucking thing.
Well,
Like,
that's the thing, and it's not only that as well. I mean, just even sticking with battle tactics, it's not just the eight, is it, that we have in the book? It's all the
no,
ones that
you
we
need to know
have in.
everybody else's.
We know
Yeah,
everyone else's as well, and I mean, what? There's that. There must be over 100 now, something like that. Maybe a bit
gotta
too
be.
high. Maybe
Yeah.
a bit too high. But in terms of battle tactics, because there was all the White Dwarf updates for all the older generation books. There's all the new books that have come out as well.
Could you
So
tell me the corn battle tactics?
um, just I don't know, Scarbrand kills stuff, and then
That's what I mean. Like you
is
just like
that is
I
that
couldn't I couldn't
it?
tell you the ones that Night Hunt have. Like I
No,
just don't I don't
I
you
mean,
can't really think of them. So if you're thinking
good
about this
good thing is
strategically,
they're terrible, Nathan. So it's fine. You'll
yeah,
never have to.
maybe a bad example.
You stick to talking about Doc maybe and all of the autos
Yeah,
that they can do and stuff like that. Yeah, that's fine.
but like if you're sitting there thinking, right, what can I do this turn to maybe give them a challenging battle tactic for the next
Hmm.
turn? Now, like I had a game this afternoon, and in that game, uh, none of us really did much turn one, and I'd used the easy to get against the odds
Hmm.
battle tactic. But my opponent didn't kill a unit in their turn, so I wasn't able to do eye for an eye.
Hmm.
The territory was so small that I couldn't really get in to get his scenery pieces or get
Yeah,
into his
yeah.
territory for.
The
He
bar
didn't
scale.
have he
Mm.
didn't have units like wholly on the objectives for me to do like there was the one objective, the split.
Yeah,
So like I can't really guarantee that I'm going to kill a unit and control more objectives because there is only one.
yeah,
Like it put me in a position where it was really difficult to get a battle tactic.
yeah.
So I ended up having to fall back to the battle tome one or the white dwarf one in my case, which they probably weren't really thinking about. So it's like if you're trying to control what your opponent can do and you just
Hmm.
can't really you don't know 100 battle
Yes,
tactics off
you
the top of
can't
your head,
you
then
can't know them all exactly,
yeah,
and that'll only come from reps against specific people,
specific armies, yeah,
and then the next 6 months it'll change again, and
will
then there'll be a
change,
new
yeah,
book, and then there'll be news, and then yeah, so it is a lot. We all know. I think we realise it's going to be a lot to take in, and it's going to be a lot of the case of right, cool. Let's just delete that from my memory. Let's absorb, reabsorb all of this
yeah.
stuff as quickly as I
It's like a
can.
25 pound
Move
book.
on.
It's a lovely book as well, and
It's a
it
very
just
nice book.
effectively goes in the bin because like who plays the old.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah,
Like I would love
exactly.
for it to be a supplement. Like we've
Mhm.
got these ring bound books now, like
Yeah.
something that you can just clip onto your book, and you've expanded it for the next
Yeah.
6 months. Keep it a little bit fresh,
No, I know.
but I think that's maybe been a bit naive. I think we're going to get a whole new list of things that we need to try and remember.
Yeah,
We'll
exactly. I
need
know.
Thomas Stott to come out and do another video to help us remember the name of the
Oh,
battle
God.
tactics.
Yeah, that was outstanding. Cool. So I think that's us. I think have we correctly have we answered the last one? What we thought the new GHB will bring? We thought theme's going
uh,
to be running in line with
the
this
past two themes.
potentially the battlefield rules. So maybe focusing more on the leaders and they becoming. I genuinely don't think they're gonna look at artillery. I think artillery is
Mhm.
so rare in the game that I just don't
Age of
see it being a
Heroes or
thing.
something, yeah.
So something like that, yeah. Take it back to Hero Hammer, where where I mean you already kind of have some element of that because your heroes have got heroic actions
Hmm.
now, so they have a wee bit of their own kind of play in there as well. But yeah, maybe just something else to some other mechanic to make them maybe more impactful in the game in some way. That could be a good shout, I think. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I think that's us.
Yeah,
I think that's us, mate.
solved it.
Perfect. Yeah, completed it, mate. That's it. So thank you very much. First of all, if you've managed to stick around for this long, I know an hour and 25 minutes is, we only went over by about nearly half an hour, so it's not too bad. We've managed to stop ourselves talking about this amazing game that we love so much. Hold ourselves back a bit, but there'll be a lot more content coming out over the coming weeks, months. As I say, we're going to be having battle reports. We're going to be doing these kind of talking segments as well, these vlogs as well, where we're going to be kind of really honing in on some key themes to do with Sigmar. There'll be good tactical discussions, list building, list reviews, tournament breakdowns as well. I'm hoping to do. So there'll be a whole load of content to be able to feast yourself on. So that's the game. That's the end goal, isn't it? So thank you so much. Thank you so much as well, Nathan, for being with me here tonight. Loved your thoughts, and going to be a regular co-host with myself on the channel as well. Hopefully, we'll be seeing a lot more of you. So yeah. Anything you'd like to say for the folks, Nathan?
No. Stick around for
Right.
more.
Stick around for more. Yes, I like that. So yeah, tune in next time, guys, and answer the call, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you very much. See you later.